And welcome back to another episode of Maximizing Your Season of Singleness. And I have Dr. Daniels back with me. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's always good to be back.
I'm glad to have you here. So today, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm a little out of sorts right now. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about hitting that reset button and getting back to the basics. So this is something that I just recently experienced, actually last week, as a matter of fact. Well, part of it, I've been resetting probably since December, January, just kind of getting back to the basics. And last week, it just really hit home with me what was going on. God presented some things to me as far as what was going on in my life. And it's not just necessarily when it comes to life, but purpose. And most definitely, I can say my relationship with God.
Right. And when you say hit the reset button, can you kind of elaborate a little bit and talk about, what are the kind of things that one might be experiencing that would cause them to benefit from hitting the reset? Because sometimes people might reset because they're going through a difficult time, thinking that that's what's required, and that may not be the case, right?
That's true.
Because sometimes you can be going through a difficult time, and that's God's way of refining what you're doing.
That's true.
Or it could be the simple fact that the devil is still trying to get busy.
Most definitely.
But that don't mean you want to reset. So that's why I'm just saying for the audience, because everyone may not understand, what would cause you to say, well, now it's time to, to reset. So maybe just give them an example or two of what that feels like, so they will know when to reset rather than when to push forward.
Okay. Well, I will honestly say what I was experiencing is just a change in my mood. And I did not recognize that there were some things going on the inside. Like you just said, I was trying to push forward when really I needed to reset. It was just a change in my mood, noticing, and I can't say it was for the better either. Just an agitation in my spirit, really anxious, and for no reason.
So is there anything that someone could quickly identify? Like, for example, I'm going to just use a couple examples. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but for a couple examples. Let's say, you may be in a relationship with someone, right? And in your mindset, you're thinking that this person is a marriage material. You all have been dating with the anticipation of getting married. But then during the course of premarital counseling, let's say, you find out something about that person that goes totally against where you are, right? So do you push forward? Or do you say, let me reset? And that's what I'm saying. So sometimes people need to know that clarity.
I understand.
What are the things that I might be experiencing? It could be, let's say, for the sake of argument, that you're seeking a career path, right? And in seeking that career path, you come to the realization that, the money is good, but the things I would have to do in order to make that money,
exactly,
that it would go against my moral compass.
Exactly.
So I might need to reset. And that's what I'm saying, some of the things that people can just see that are tangible. The reason why I phrase it that way is because, for you it's the gut feeling when the Spirit is speaking to you. But for them, they can't feel what you feel.
Exactly.
Right? So for them, it might have to be something where it's something that they can really see in their lives that say, you know what? I could progress where I am. And I'll give a quick example, and I don't want to take up all the time because I know some other things we want to talk about. But for example, I know that a position that I was offered at one time, I realized that in taking the position, it was a promotion, would have been lucrative, that it would cause me to have to become somewhat of a I won't call it headhunter, but I would have to get rid of people that had been there for a long time, people that were close to retirement, because what the aim was to trim the fat, so to speak. And in my mind, my conscience would say, you know what, I want a promotion, but I can't do it at the expense of other people.
Exactly.
You know, I can't bring them down. So maybe this direction ain't the direction I need to go in because my heart ain't in it. You know, my heart won't let me be the henchman for an organization. Yeah. You know, I got to be somewhere where I can help somebody. So I mean, that's another thing where, you know, I say on a career, you might have to reset. You know, so I'm just saying that things like that might require a person to rethink where they are.
Well, and that was a great example, by the way. I will say, when I say reset, it could be anything in life that you're experiencing. For example, when it comes to your personal budget, let's say if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you know you need to make changes, but deep down you really don't want to. I was there to where I really didn't want to. I enjoyed the neighborhood that I lived in, and I just didn't want to move again until I was ready to buy another house. But sometimes you have to make that decision for yourself. If you're stressed out, worrying about bills, how are you going to make certain bills, or if it's just not enough money at the end of the bills, as so to speak, then you know you have to make these changes for yourself. Sometimes you have to cut back when it comes to living, maybe downsize. Also, maybe selling a vehicle if you're driving something that you really can't afford to be driving. And sometimes we have to sell it if the maintenance is just too much, and maybe get something more affordable. Things like that. Because if you're stressed in that way and you can't really enjoy life in the way God intended us to, then that's one thing you want. You know, that's what should I say? That's a cue for you right there, so to speak. Like, hey, this is not working for me. You might even have to get a roommate. Sometimes people have to move back in with family members and things like that. So you don't want to wait until things fall apart to make those changes. And then also, and you spoke on, say if someone's about to get married and they're going through counseling and they recognize that maybe we should wait. But then again, a lot of people do this. I did it, unfortunately. I didn't get marriage counseling. I didn't have that at the time. I was 25. And the night before I got married, my ex-husband woke up and he was feeling a bit unsettled. He was like, maybe we should wait. But in my mind, because as a young woman, we want so bad to be married and not thinking about, do we want to be married to this person? Do we want to live our lives with this person? Or we just want the ring? We want the marriage to say that we're married. And a lot of women, we don't think about that. If you know, like for me, like I said, the feeling in my spirit just being not settled. But if you know, if there are certain things, you have those red flags that have been jumping out at you, you're unequally yoked, and things just, you're forcing the situation, and you have to keep telling yourself over and over, it's going to be okay, when really it's not.
Yeah,
you gotta take a step back.
And I would say that definitely that's a reset. And I would categorize it this way. For both of the examples you gave, to me, there's a reset of my own self, in a sense, is this. Because those situations are based on how I do business, right? Okay, yep. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes what you do is the reset is a reevaluation. That's true. Right? Yeah. A reevaluation. Because if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, that means my priorities are off. Right? That's right. I have prioritized, I call it, well, I won't say the term we used to call it, but you live above your means. That's when the car payment is more than the mortgage payment, right? Yeah. And so you're rich in the wrong place. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And the same thing about, like you talked about with the marriage deal. That it's the way you look at your priorities. If a woman's priority is getting married, that's the wrong priority. Exactly. Right? I agree. I mean, the priority should be finding someone that you and him have the same goals for life and moving in the direction that God would have you to go. That's right. And the same thing about finances is that if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, it's because my priorities are not right. That's right. I value how people view me rather than valuing who I am as an individual. Because I want to be seen in certain ways. Just like I want to be seen with Louis Vuitton. I want to be seen, with all, all this. I want to be seen, so I'm wearing a Rolex and these kind of things, rather than looking at what's really valuable.
Yeah.
And what's really valuable is not the type of watch I wear, but who I am on the inside.
That's right.
So to me, in those instances, what we're talking about is a reset of my values.
That's it.
Not just I need a new apartment or I need another car, but it's what are my values? Because if I don't change my values, I may modify my behavior temporarily, but as soon as I get a promotion, I'll go right back to the same kind of thinking.
That's right. Yeah.
But if my values change, the same thing about a person in my life. If my values change, then who and how I seek someone in my life will change as well.
It most definitely will, and I have realized that as of late myself, and for the better, I must say. Like you said, God, He will work things out for the better of those, of those that love the Lord. But the thing is, it's about reevaluating, like you said, self and prioritizing. You really have to just take a look at yourself and do the work in yourself first, because like you said, if you don't, then you're gonna repeat that cycle over and over again. You have to, it's a lot of times we're paying attention to societal norms and the worldly views. We want to live according to society and not what's good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about it, especially if you are a Christian, and if you're a non-Christian, what we're saying still is applicable. But if you are a Christian, let's say, for example, oftentimes, as you said, our actions, our behaviors are not all the time based on what we have been taught, but based on, let me say it differently, not all the time based on what we've been taught in the church, but based on what we've been taught in the world.
That's right.
So that's how our values are set up.
That's right.
And so the reset to me then, again, is in that readjustment, is to say, well, wait a minute, why am I valuing the world over the word? By the word, I mean, of course, the word of God, right? And so that's that reset, because that reset covers everything. That reset, when you do it that way, it covers life and how you look at life. It covers purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing and what's there for you? And it also covers relationships.
It does.
Because when I reset that way, when I go back and say, wait a minute, I may not be starting from the ground floor on everything, but I'll start from the ground floor on my relationship with God and say, hey, wait a minute, where am I in that relationship? And what's my primary focus? And how am I moving forward? And that just changes everything. It just sets us up in a place where we can see clearly. There's a song that came out a long time ago that says, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. Rain is gone. Right? Yep. And that's kind of what happens when you reset in that way. And I think that's one of the things that we often neglect to do is when we're thinking about a reset, we look at the tangible things that we can see, and we don't always look at the reasoning behind why we did what we did. Yeah, that's true. And I can honestly say, as far as purpose, when you mentioned that, one thing I recognized I was doing in the very beginning, when I felt the call of God all my life, is I just got busy. Just got busy doing a whole lot of stuff that God didn't tell me to do. So, and when I say a lot of stuff, and I recognize, you helped me recognize this also, just because you've been called doesn't mean it's go time. You have to take your time and allow God to work on you so He can work through you. And sometimes we'll get busy doing things that anxiousness will cause us to just kind of jump out there. And God His pace is peaceful. And He'll have you doing things. He's not going to put you in debt doing certain things. I was just busy with all these different subscriptions, signing up for this and that and the other, life coaching. I got to get started. I got to do this. I got to do that. When really, the only thing I probably should have been doing at that time was just ministry here, writing, and I was just doing way too much. Well, that's another thing. It's easy to get caught up in thinking that the more I do, the more impact I will have. Exactly. It's easy for people to get to think about the wide road and not focus on the narrow road. Because sometimes an impact on one life will make a greater difference than the impact on 100 lives.
That's true.
And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, is that when you think about people in history, okay, and the impact they had, most of them will tell you it went back to what someone said or did to them as an individual.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That is true.
So the changing in that one life, right? You know, if you look at our history, for example, look at Harriet Tubman, right? That change, that one change in her made a difference for thousands.
It did. It really did. Wow.
For thousands.
So
and so all that one person had to do was make a change on her, right? And the same thing with Sojourner Truth and, you know, all those people that we revere. You know, that one impact. I look at my own self as an example, right? That simple concept that one person said to me, right? This thing was simple. Try God for 30 days, right? That was this thing. Try him for 30 days. If you don't like him, the devil will take you back, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes people talked about that person because they said he was not as effective in his preaching anymore because he was older, you know. And because he was older, he didn't necessarily move with other younger people. So they were like, it's time for this, it's time for that. But he didn't lose sight. So his focus was on changing me. And when he changed me, it changed a great deal because that meant that several other people had the benefit of his changing me.
That's amazing.
You know, and that's why I'm saying that sometimes when we get busy doing a lot of stuff, is because that's the reset. The reset is, well, what was I really supposed to be focusing on? What was the real aim and who I was ministering to and what I was doing? And we're in a generation now where, you know, and I know this is about being single, so I'm just going to throw this out there, but a lot of ministers think that way. They think about the masses. All of them want the mega church, as if the mega church will make the greater difference, but not necessarily so.
That's true.
Martin Luther King did not come from a mega church. He came from, I mean, if you really looked at the church he came from, it was not large. It wasn't large at all, but that's where he came from, right? But look at the change that happened because of that small church. See, that one man made a difference. There wasn't the largest church, but they made the greatest difference. In every city you go to, just about, there's a Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Yeah, that's true. Right? You're right.
In some sense, it's the same thing. When we look to make those adjustments, when we look to make those resets, like you say, sometimes you're doing so much stuff because you're trying to impact so many people, not realizing you don't need to impact 100. Check one at a time.
Just one at a time. You're right.
When I was in the 9th grade, one of my instructors had a writing on her wall that said, even a journey of 1,000,000 miles begin with one step.
That's right.
Right.
That's it right there. You're right.
And so that's the approach you take. Let me change the life of this one person. And then let me change the life of that one person and that one person. And you never know how it will snowball and what great effect it'll have on everybody.
You're right. And that's when I finally took a step back. I kept feeling that in my spirit that I needed to be active in ministry in the church. So, and that's when I spoke to you, and then this was born. We started this, and I left everything else alone. So I had to go back to the basics. I had to hit the reset button and just say, you know what, God, what is it that you want me to do? I felt like I needed to be speaking on the information that I'm giving out now. And I will say this here, in order to really know what it is God needs you to do when you are experiencing the moodiness, you know, the change in behavior at work or just around people in general, you're noticing that you're a bit different, not as gung-ho as you used to be, you know. And once again, just that agitation in my spirit. And God told me I needed to do something different in my relationship with him. Just like we have relationships with one another, with our mates and our spouses, our friends, it becomes mundane sometimes, and we get used to the routine. And he told me that before, when I used to get up at 4 a.m. and read and things like that and have my quiet time, it was awesome. I experienced so many miracles, just him really revealing himself to me. Well, it became more like routine. He said, what you're doing now, getting up, is more about routine than it is relationship. Right. I had lost that intimacy with him. I wasn't necessarily hearing from him in the way that I used to. A lot of things had changed, and I recognized it, and I didn't feel good about it. Right. So he said, you need to do something different. You need to change the scenery, just like when you go on vacation with a spouse. Things kind of liven up a bit then.
Yeah, well, Yeah, and I think too, Jesus put it this way, and I think for single people, this is something you have to be thinking through thoroughly, because oftentimes single people tend to seek that which they feel will give pleasure. Right? Yep. But Jesus said it this way. He says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
And all these other things will be added unto you, right?
That's right.
So to me, that's the reset that we all have to focus on,
yes,
right? Is
definitely.
So as you said, something became routine with you. But what we have to do is go back and say, well, am I really going through the motions, or am I really seeking him? And when Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, what his recognition is that live your life like you're always looking to get there. Okay. I mean, we know that once you get saved, you got to have heaven locked down, right? But the problem is people get it locked down and they stop seeking.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So when you get it locked down, you still keep seeking. Paul said it this way. He said, run the race as if only one would get the prize. Okay. And that's that continually seeking. That's that presence of mind to always be looking, to always be trying to get to where he's at. Always trying to get to heaven. That's that reset that again affects every part of my life. If I'm seeking God first, right, he's going to give me that kind of life that I'm looking for.
That's true. That is true.
That will generate blessings. If I'm seeking God first, I will always know the purpose, because he's going to reveal purpose to me.
Yes.
Not just reveal purpose to me, but also outline for me how to walk in that which he has revealed for me.
I agree.
And I say that because it is one thing to know he wants me to get to the promised land. It's another thing to know which route he wants me to take.
That's true. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So it's not just purpose, it's also how to implement and how to get where he's wanting me to go. And the same thing with the relationship issue. Again, all things will be given unto me. If I am seeking him first, then I will also find like-minded people, because we know birds of a feather flock together.
That's
so
true.
if I'm seeking him first, those are the kind of people that's going to gravitate toward me. So I will get that kind of relationship that I have been looking for, where I'm not unequally yoked. Because truly saved folk don't like to hang around truly unsaved folk.
I definitely agree with you there. You're right. You're right about that.
So when we put him first, all those other things are really put in our way, and God really blesses us with all those things that we have been looking for. As a songwriter said, looking for all the right things in the wrong places, and that will get us back looking for the right things in the right places.
That's true, and I will say this for the audience, just to help you recognize. I can say for myself, when I'm starting to look outside of myself for pleasure, in a sense, wanting to please or satisfy the flesh in a way. When you get to that point and you're not doing right, you just kind of like you're trying, but at the same time you start to recognize you're doing a little bit more than you normally would. So that's when it's time to really take a step back seriously, and don't allow yourself to be put in a situation that's going to set you back. For me, I took a day off work last week, and I actually I went to the beach. I turned my phone off. No social media, no cell phone. I didn't even eat from 9 to 5. I sat there from 9 to 11 just to pray and just enjoy being outside in nature with him for that time period. Then I went home. I read a little bit of my Bible, and then I went home and I read more throughout the day. Listened to some worship music, and I prayed, things like that. You need that, because even though I do that anyways, it came to a point to where once again, it was just like going through the motions. I didn't feel like I was really getting anything from it. So I recognized, and he told me, you need a change of scenery here. Let's do something different. And sometimes you have to.
Do you know why you need a change of scenery?
Why is that?
No, I'm asking you.
Do I know why I needed it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you threw the question back at me, so I'll
okay.
answer the
Well,
question
tell me
then.
what you think.
Well, I'll tell you what the Bible says.
Okay.
It's what happens is, it's like fasting, right? That the focus is off. So you fast.
Yes.
You fast to gain focus.
Yes.
So the change of scenery is not that you need to look at the ocean, or you need to look at the mountains,
but
or
it
whatever.
helped. Yeah.
What it is, what God is saying is, you're not focusing on me.
He did say that.
I
He told me that as well.
That's what it is. Is that you're not focusing on me. So if you're not focusing on me, let me move you somewhere where you can focus.
Exactly.
So that's the key thing.
Yeah.
That's what people to.
That's right.
So you can change the scenery and still not focus. Is my point, right?
Okay.
Because you've been trying to go to the beach and sit on the sand and then get wrapped up in the waves. Or,
oh my goodness.
So
he's right.
So it's that focus is the thing, and so that's what God is really saying to people when He say, "Listen, you need to readjust." It's because the point is your focus is off.
Yeah.
Your attention is being not only on me. You may be home sometime listening to music and think you're reading the Bible, but really the song you're listening to is taking more space up in your head than what you have just read. And the same thing, you could be anywhere and that could happen to you that way. So, and that's why in the scripture, those individuals would put themselves in an environment that had no other stimulus.
Gotcha.
So the only stimulus was coming from God.
Okay.
They would go into a cave, for example. Elijah was, stuff people like go into a cave and get that kind of thing. Go on a mountaintop, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of, where there was no stimulus going on.
Okay.
So our focus was locked in to just connecting with my God.
That makes sense.
And so that's what I was just saying, just so that people in the audience might well understand a little clearer that's what He's wanting from us.
Yeah.
And I'll make this statement because I know our time is already out. So I just say that for my closing remarks is this: the book of Ecclesiastes, I think, says it best, and this is what he says. The question raised by Solomon is, well, what is the whole duty of man? Right? He said the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep His commandments. Right? He said, listen, all the other stuff you focus on is vanity, just sheer vanity. And I think that's what God is speaking to us when He says for the reset. And say, listen, remember, what is the whole duty? What is your whole duty? And if you're not doing that, then you're not where I want you to be.
It's true. I think if we can all just go back to the beginning and, like you said, take the focus off of ourselves or just everyday life, even though everyday life happens, we still have to put Him first. So find that time, make time for Him first and foremost, and everything else comes after that. So I think we're about done here. This was pretty good. I know I stumbled a bit in the beginning. Dr. Daniels threw me a curveball and said, go for it. So I'm used to him opening up and closing, but I'm doing it now. But thank you guys. We appreciate you. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. So thank you guys. We will see you next week. I may have another guest for you next week after. We'll see. But hopefully you'll be here.
All right.
One day, but you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video, please. And we will see